The Cumans can build a feudal age town centre, and I'm curious to know how good it is for booming. In an untouched boom scenario, is adding a town centre in feudal worth it? Or is it simply better to just fast castle and boom normally? Let's find out. First, I played 2 games on identical maps, with 100% of my focus on economy. The goal was to get the eco upgrades as early as possible, reach the Imperial Age, and then pause at 30 minutes of game time to see where I'm at. In the first game, I did a regular fast castle, with 26 villagers in Dark Age, 28 in Feudal, and then adding 2 new town centres in Castle. In the second game, I went up with 21 population, added a second town centre immediately, went up to Castle as fast as I could, and then added the third town centre once in the Castle Age. In both games, I didn't break villager production at any time, and I didn't take the deer. I really like this method of testing, because it's very hands-on and there are certain factors that you just can't understand simply by looking at the numbers and making deductions in isolation. There is an element here which is being accounted for, and that is the ease of execution. How likely are you to make mistakes in either scenario? Mistakes are something that we're all prone to make, and so a build order that produces less human error is something of value that a purely theoretical deduction might not pick up on. So long as the tests are carried out to the best of my ability, then I think they are a good representation of what would happen in a real game. As it stands, I'm happy with my performance in all of the tests in this video. My upgrade timings were nearly identical, and my villager counts were consistent between comparable tests. With that said, let's take a look at the results. What do you think they'll look like? If we have a look at the total villagers created in both, there was only a difference of 3. This makes sense because one of my feudal age town centres would have still been training villagers as I was advancing up to castle. The text screen shows that I got all of my economy upgrades in both games, but let's take a look at the timings of when those upgrades came in. I got Bitaxe 4 minutes earlier in the feudal method. This really helped me to bank a lot of wood early, and it made adding lots of farms a breeze. Notice how Bowsaw came 5 minutes later though, so my wood income would have been higher in the Castle Age during the fast castle method, but I would have started benefiting from extra gather speed earlier in the feudal method. The big headline here though is being able to afford both wheelbarrow and handcart about 3 minutes earlier in the feudal strategy. These techs have the biggest impact on farmers and definitely made villager production during early castle very easy thanks to having that additional food. The age up timings are also really important, and I want to draw your attention particularly to the castle time, since this one has the largest difference between the two at over 5 minutes. The Imperial times were very similar, with being just 1 minute apart. So far, it seems like I had a very similar number of villagers by the end, and a very similar Imperial Age timing. The only real difference here is when I got the upgrades and at what point I had more or less villagers. So the real test is to see how many total resources were gathered over the 30 minutes. The difference is 2,000 resources, about 8% more for the Feudal Town Center strategy. Now, I only did this once, so I'm going to have to repeat this at least one more time to see if that difference holds up. For now, it seems like the Feudal Town Center strategy seems to give the better result. But let's test that again, and instead of doing 3 town centers, let's add a 4th town center in the Castle Age and see what happens. Can I reproduce the same advantage for the Feudal Age town center method in this scenario as well? The answer is yes! Yes, I can! This time I bought 100 stone at the market and added the 4th town center as soon as I could afford it. At the end of the 30 minutes, the Feudal Town Center method netted me 2,300 more resources overall. Pretty much the same difference as before. Another lesson that can be learned here is that in a 30-minute period, booming with 4 town centers is much better than 3. By the end of the 30 minutes, I had 20 more villagers and an additional 2,000 resources collected with 4 town centers compared to 3. The main takeaway here is that the Feudal Town Center boom was equally and consistently better in both the 3 town center and 4 Town Center boom scenarios. This is really worthwhile to know if you're playing on any kind of closed map such as Black Forest or Mongolia, where you can wall and be sure you won't get rushed. Of course, if you're playing on an open map such as Arabia, then the much slower castle time that the Feudal boom produces is probably going to hurt you, or your allies, in most cases. In these situations, then you should definitely not compromise your castle time by 5 minutes for the sake of 2,000 extra resources in the long run. That's plenty of time for your opponents to make 20 knights and start crushing you or your flank. However, I would say on an open map like Arabia, it's a good idea to add that second town center as you advance up to the castle age, so you can get the best of both worlds. All in all, 2,000 resources doesn't sound like that much. It's between 5 and 10% more resources gathered than just doing a regular fast castle. But I did find that adding the Feudal Town Center made it much easier to boom. It was a much easier method. And that's why I mentioned testing this in the way that I did earlier in the video. 2,000 resources is also not insignificant. That could, for example, allow you to upgrade Elite Step Lancer with change, and that's definitely something worthwhile. So there we go. I would say that it is worthwhile to add the extra town center in Feudal if you are in a purely booming situation. I hope you will agree that my tests were fair and representative of a real game. And if you are curious to see the recorded games, I've also linked them down in the description so you can watch them for yourself. Before I head off, I do just want to plug the Discord server real quick. I actually ran a poll in there with 3 different video ideas, and this was the one that was voted to the top. So if you'd like to have some input on what kind of content gets created and goes up on the channel, then if you join the Discord server, you can vote on which videos you'd like to see next. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I've been ZeroEmpires, and I will see you next time.